Hello, this is Doug Courneya with Courneya Horticulture in Rochester, Minnesota. Today I'll be talking about installing guards to protect young trees from deer that in our region will start rubbing their antlers on the bases and the bark of young trees to remove velvet from their antlers and to polish their antlers for the fall season. One evening of rubbing on a tree can completely ruin a tree. The method that I'm going to be using utilizes a 1/4-inch hardware cloth or mesh. It's available at any farm supply store and many hardware stores and can be purchased relatively inexpensively. I cut the hardware cloth mesh into widths of 32 to 36 inches, which gives me about a 10-inch to 12-inch diameter ring when I'm done. If I have a larger tree or a multi-stem tree, I cut it accordingly to fit around the tree without contacting the trunk. And to install this system, I first sweep away the bark at the base because I want the base of this wire to be below the bark. That gives me protection from another common rodent that can damage trees in our region, which is the meadow vole. That's a smaller meadow mouse is another name for them. They oftentimes will chew the base of the bark of the base of trees. So what I do is just basically make a cylinder around the tree, and I like to utilize a cable tie. You can also use fine wire to wire the mesh together. I overlap the mesh by 3 or 4 squares, and then I simply run the cable tie through the mesh and back through to secure it. Getting the first tie in place does take a little bit of effort, and in that case it does help to have a second person to help hold the mesh. Then you simply move the mesh around, and I like to secure the upper portion of the mesh next and overlap it by the same number of squares that I did on the bottom. These cable ties are available also in ag supply stores and hardware stores in their electrical section. Once I get a couple of cable ties on, it helps me to control it. Then you need some kind of a stake to help to support the system away from the tree and support it in an upright position. I prefer to use these flat galvanized steel bars, which are actually a tensioner bar for chain link fence. And these also are available any place that they sell chain link fence. Again, ag supply or hardware stores. And out on the edge of you have to work this between the root systems of the trees, but you work it until you find a spot that you can penetrate down into the ground alongside of the root flare. There I've missed it, but the ground is hard, so I'm just going to tap it in. Until it's firm. These are a little taller than I need, but the extra height gives a little extra protection above the screen. And then I simply bring the screen around to the stake and bring cable ties through the mesh and around the stake and secure the mesh to the stakes. These ties can be secured in 2 or 3 places along the stake. It supports the mesh 3 feet high. I use a 3-foot width hardware cloth. That's high enough to prevent deer from rubbing. Again, it goes down into the ground or into the mulch zone around the root flare, and I simply replace the mulch, which prevents meadow voles from entering underneath. In addition to meadow voles and protecting from deer, this time of year it's critical to get them protected from deer, which is late August to early part of September. But in addition to protecting from those two animals in the urban environment, it also gives good protection from rabbits, which will oftentimes chew on the base of young trees when they get hungry in the winter months. And it also provides enough shade through the screen to protect the tree from winter sun scald injury in our region. This has been Doug Courneya with Courneya Horticulture. Thank you for viewing.